Thank you very much for joining in for very interesting topic on personalized learning and how to engage the new generation of learners. So this is a very interesting topic that I'm sure most of the business leaders, HR professionals, and in particular L&D professionals are grappling with. So we have three very eminent experts here uh, in form of Ashok and Antoinette and Meghna. And we are very eager to hear them and learn from them what has been their experiences and their guidance to us on this subject, right? So before I do that, let me first give a brief introduction about Enabling World, just 30 seconds. So Enabling World, right now we are in a 12th year, and we are a boutique organization in terms of our purpose is enable the organizations realize their potential. Now, this we do through HR consulting and advisory services, leadership and talent development services. D&I is another passion for us. We do a lot of work in this area, employee well-being and a bit of outsourcing services as well. But I think our main portfolio is more on leadership, talent development, HR consulting, and also employee well-being. Now, so that's a brief introduction, but after that, let me welcome and introduce our experts here. So, so Prerna, can we go back to that page? Okay, so let me first welcome Meghna Tanwar. Meghna, hi. I know it's a pretty busy schedule for you. Thanks for joining in. And Meghna has been in IBM and she led very interesting role. I envy her. She was leading the Your Learning, which is a new way of using IBM Watson into the learning function, and that really transformed the whole learning journey. I was witness to that too for a few years when I was there in IBM, and she was leading that as a senior leader. And now she's a senior director with Sapient Publicis. She's the head of learning and talent development, and she's based in Gurgaon, right, Meghna? You can unmute yourself and say hi.
Yes,
If
Sanjeev. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for making the time. And Sanjeev, thanks so much for inviting me. I'm very glad to be here.
Thank you. And next is Ashok Madan. Ashok is a veteran in a very large IT firm from India. It's a multinational firm. I don't know now we can say Indian or multinational. I mean Indian origin. HL Technologies, and he has been there for more than 3 decades. Right? It's a lifelong employment, Ashok. So congratulations to you. And he has done various roles, I know, into R&D of HL Technologies, into delivery, project delivery. But of late, he has been into skilling function, very prominent, many years now, and he has done wonderful work. I keep hearing about different awards that he keeps getting on the learning function as a learning leader. So we'll get the secret sauce from him. How does he manage that? But currently, he is also founder and head of STAR, which is School of Talent Advancement and Reskilling Academy. So I think he's a lot to share with us, stories of how we can get into the personalized learning, how can we engage the new age learners. So thank you, Ashok, for joining in.
Thank you, Sanjay. Just to add one more line, so I've moved one step now further. So rather than just start now, I'm heading the fresher cadre management across the enterprise. So that is the basically the
Wow,
learning for the Gen Z. I think that is very relevant to today's topic. So I'll throw some light on that.
excellent, excellent. So correct. So we have few models, right? You buy talent, you build talent. So you are building the talent for that's the right thing to do, right? For large enterprise like HCL. So great. Ashok, we'll look forward to hear from you. And then we have Antoinette Roberts. Thank you, Antoinette, for joining us. She's joining us from South Africa, and she was till very recently head of HR, head of human capital and transformation at View Level Telecoms, which was a large organization, and she was supporting various subsidiaries, about 18 subsidiaries. So she was holding a very big role, and she has gracefully agreed to join us today. And she has started her own firm called she's MD of Bridging Associates, which is a consulting firm. So wish you all the best in your new venture, Antoinette, first of all, and thank you for joining in. We look forward to hear from you. And I don't want to read through all, it is available. You have a very impressive profile in terms of doing a PhD, into leadership from Gibbs Institute, and then many other accolades you have in your profile. So it is available for us to read through, but it is, I don't want to spend all the time in reading through that, but yes, it's pretty impressive and rich. Thank you very much for joining in.
Thank you, Sajid. Thank you for the well wishes. I take that to heart, and it's exciting for me to be here today with you guys. Thank you for inviting me to join the panel.
All right. So I think the format here will be participants here it will be question answer. So we have received some questions from you, and some questions, we would be taking up, to all the experts to get an idea of, what they think about personalized learning and how do we engage the new generation of learners. So maybe we can stop sharing and we can straightway get into the session, right? All right. And for audience, please keep it very interactive. You can put your questions in the chat and we will try. And I request all the experts, when you're not talking, if you see a question or a remark, feel free to react to that in the chat itself, so that people get answer, because we'll not be able to bring everyone on call, right? That may not be possible, but if you feel free to react to that and comment on that. All right. And also warm welcome to all the audience. You would have joined from different cities. So can I know which city have you joined from? I'm joining from Delhi, and let me see, where all you're joining from. So if you could put on the chat, we'll also check whether the chat function is working properly. So we have people from Hyderabad, Cochin, Chennai, Mumbai, Ahmedabad, Bengaluru, Gurgaon, Tamil Nadu. All right. So pretty much diverse. Lucknow. Okay. Johannesburg. Okay. All right. So thank you very much for people for joining in from all over, mostly from India, and there's some guests from South Africa as well. So thank you very much. All right. So let's begin. As a context, you know, uh, we are in experience economy, as we all know, and I'm hearing some echo. And Toinet, I think it's from your side. Can you go on mute for a second? You're not talking. Let me see if it is coming from your side. Yeah, I think there was some background noise coming. Okay, no worries. So since we are into, as we say, we are into experience economy, and we are into personalization as a business. That's very important, right? Nowadays, I was reading some reports where 94% of the businesses, they feel that personalization is very critical to their business, right? Whatever business you are into, either selling music or you're into providing transportation or into clothing, personalization is the center stage for everything. That's the new buying behavior or the way people consume anything that is offered, right? Now, in that era, learning, which is very close to especially the new generation, right? There were different ways why people join organization, why do they work? But today, learning and career are two very important things for which why people join the organization or they leave the organization, right? Both ways. So that way, if we are into that economy, the new challenge or the one of the biggest challenge that learning professionals in particular and HR and business leaders they are facing, how could we personalize the learnings that we are offering as an organization to employees and still making business sense? So there's always a imbalance. There's always a debate: what is right, what is wrong. So how do we do that? So that's the session today. That's the question we'll be sharply focused on. So to begin with, first let me ask all of you, all the experts, maybe one by one, briefly 2-3 minutes of your thought on personalized learning and your personal experiences of doing that and wherever you are working or you have seen working, right? So maybe 2-3 minutes if you could spend on that. Let's begin with that, and then we'll go through the further question answer, if that is okay with Meghna and Toynet. Is it okay with you? All right. All right. So Meghna, let me start from you. Your perspective on personalization of learning and your experience, maybe a couple of examples of what your experiences have been, how it has benefited the employees and the business, and keep it maybe 3-4 minutes if you can, so that we have time for other questions. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Sanjeev. So, I absolutely agree with you that especially in this world today when, you've got, you're ordering stuff on Amazon, and Amazon's, knows exactly what is it that it wants to make you shop for. And you want to be able to book a car like an Uber. It knows the kind of cars that you enjoy, the kind of rides that you usually take, and things like that. So in this sort of, they call it the experience economy, right?
Yeah.
And so if the experience economy has sort of invaded our personal lives as much as it has, and of course, the Gen Z and the millennials are bigger fans of it than perhaps I am. But
Yes.
I guess in that economy, and with everything that it offers to us, which is really about sort of seamless, it's speed, it's so agile, right? And it's so aware. It's like almost like hyper personalized, so to say. So in
Mm.
that sort of enterprise world, and lots of organizations have been doing this thinking around saying, so how do you translate that to learning? So why is it that our people or our employees will come to work and then expect something drastically different than the way they are shopping outside or the personalization that they get outside, right? And that's how it's sort of the thought translated to say that people would also want to learn like that, right? They would also
Mm.
want to build skills in that sort of a fashion. And that's where this whole idea began, and there were lots of early movers in the industry. As you're aware, Sanjeev, back then IBM and Accenture were perhaps early movers in this game, to be able to
Yes.
say that we want to be able to understand the individual, right? And then be able to sort of connect all these personalized experiences to that individual and to growth. So I guess I would say that a big part of this personalization came supported with this whole aspect of what technology had to offer. And this was still a few years back. And you cut to the whole Gen AI piece that's available today. So with AI and machine learning, what you can do on the personalization front has exploded, so to say, over the past 1 year or so.
Mm.
So I feel that if I had to say it quickly as three high level points, I would say there is no other option but to personalize, to almost hyper personalized. The
Mhm.
second, of course, is it allows for what the skills life cycle looks like today. It looks so short that at this point in time, unless we are hyper personalized, we won't be able to be as agile and nimble to be able to say that, hey, you can swim across lanes and jump from one skill to another, unless we have that level of personalization. And the third, of course, is that there are early movers in the industry, but at the same time, there are lots of public platforms as well today available, which are offering the same sort of personalized piece. But at the core of all of this really is the fact that there are organizations that value the individual. And their
Mm.
entire process and thinking started with the fact that you matter most. Okay, so it wasn't really that industrial sort of growth to say, hey, this is a down view of what matters to this organization, and this is how you grow. It sort of turned the wheel upside down to be able to say, how is it that the individual wants to grow, and how is it
Mm.
that we align the individual growth to where the individual wants to move, and then be able to complement that with what technology had to offer. And of course, if I had to put all of this in the context of time, I would say it's got to be something that people were looking at in terms of bite-sized learning, in terms of on-the-go learning, being mobile native. That entire piece sort of came into play with that. So I personally feel that is not a personalization of learning is not an option at the table.
Wow.
It's the only way for us to sort of move forward and be able to align with our people really and their needs.
Thank you for opening that and remind me. I think what you're saying is there's a concept of universe of one, right? So that's what it is actually, because one person is important in the whole. And while you do mass scale, still you personalize it, right? So it is interesting. We'll hear more from you as we go along, Meghna, how we do, what the challenges are, and any guidance to all the audience of how we can actually do it on the ground, right? So, Ashok, coming to you, in your way, I mean, in addition to what Meghna has said, I'm sure you would agree you are a big fan of this. But in addition to, would you like to share any of your personal experience in your role when you're dealing with the new hires or the university hires, vitality hire, whatever you call it, and then you're grooming them? how do you still personalize how you have done, what your experiences are, and maybe just 3-4 minutes quickly, if you could share, that would be great.
So, Sanjeev, I think just adding on to what Meghna said, it's not a choice today, especially in our kind of industry where we are a service industry, and in HCL, especially 1/3 of our workforce is already Gen Z, and we're expecting it to be 2/3 in next 3 to 4 years. So,
Wow.
and Gen Z basically wants to have a choice, wants to have a say in everything. And if we want to have that, if we want to have them as our workforce, then we
You
have to
don't have a
go by
choice
what.
actually.
Yeah, we
You
we
don't
have
have
to
a
go by
choice.
what they want rather than what we want. But
Mm.
on the other flip side, organizations are meant to generate profit. They are not charitable NGOs. So I think we have to keep that in mind. We have to make sure that we service our current requirements. We have to make sure that we keep the need of the Gen Z in mind, and we have to make sure that we keep our workforce future ready. We are no The whole industry is moving towards skill based organization. So I think future ready is the keyword. The way we do it, I'll just give you a small description of the way we do it. It's a real on the ground story I'm going to tell you.
Sure, sure.
uh, See, these people come with a lot of aspirations. When they come and join us from campus, they come with a lot of aspirations. So we give them something called as role based learning. So
Okay.
whatever role they have to play, they have to first go through that role based learning, and they have to make sure that they excel in that. And once they excel in that, they earn what they want to do, what is their choice, what is their aspiration. They earn that, and then we have to make sure that we support that their aspiration from that angle. And as a organization, technology specific organization, we really have to look forward in future. What is going to be the technology area or the aspirational area from employee perspective, as well as from the organization business need perspective. We have to marry the
Hmm.
two needs.
Marry the
So we
two.
marry
Okay.
that we marry the two needs, and we create a list of aspirational learning journeys. Now these aspirational learning journeys are something which is an organization needs to keep going in the business in present as well as in future. And these are the things where Gen Z will feel very attractive. For example, today maybe AI is a buzzword, but 2 years back we started having AI as a special learning journey.
Okay.
5G just kicked in. We had 5G learning journeys 5 years back. We're already starting now with a 6G learning journeys. So we
So
have to
ahead of
look
time,
where not.
ahead of
Yeah,
curve, you are able to respond.
exactly. We have to look ahead of time so that we keep this workforce highly engaged from the perspective that I'm learning something which will help me in the future. Now that work doesn't stop here, because if the candidate wants to learn and the organization is everything there to learn, there's another thing which you have to keep in mind. There's a reporting manager in between, and reporting
Hmm.
manager has to make sure that he has to make sure that this guy delivers on the current project. He doesn't want to make give this learning option to the candidate and screw his current project. So that's going to be a problem. So he may become a bottleneck if we don't take care of him. So what we have to do is we have
That's
to enable
interesting.
it through a centralized HR process, that once these people complete these learning journeys, they will be available for any opportunities available internally for internal fulfillment. So they can be rotated from one job to another job, and this reporting manager will be a giver as well as a taker. So he may, if he has the requirement, why not? The candidate will stay with him, but that's candidate choice. But if he doesn't have that requirement of that particular learning area, the candidate will move to some other project, some other location, some other manager. So we have to bring this manager on board. Only then this will succeed. So there are
Okay. Very.
multiple angles to it. The organization has to think beyond the current role. Candidate has to be ready to stretch extra miles, because he can't make no current project suffer. Manager has to make sure that he gives him the required flexibility to operate, and HR has to make sure there are required policies in place. Now, HR policies, I'll come to that part now. So, what is the HR policy? Tomorrow, if this person completes a course on, say, 6G or maybe next generation of AI, and he is a very, very valuable resource for the market. So, if I do not satisfy his need from the perspective of role and compensation, then definitely going to lose him to the competition. So, I become
So
a
you are
training ground for.
creating talent for the competition, actually, in a way.
Exactly. So I'm becoming a training center for the competition. So I have to make sure that I'm taking care of that aspect as well. So HR policy has to ensure that once he completes that learning journey and tomorrow there's a job opportunity, he is treated equally as I would treat any outside candidate for that particular position in terms of the role and in terms of the compensation. If that assurance is given to the candidate, he is definitely going to grow with you. I have spent 31 years with this organization. I have many people who have spent even more than me. Our reporting manager has spent 40 years plus. I think there must be something why people are staying to this organization.
Great, great. I think the perspective that you brought is very interesting because while managers are enablers, they are supposed to be most of the cases, but when it comes to career movement and upskilling besides your current project requirement, it at times can become a bottleneck. So it has to be seen in totality, the organizational policies. If they are not convinced, sometimes they'll become a roadblock and people then move out, right? And all the any efforts that you're making in investing in educating and upskilling the person, it goes waste. You are, building talent for the competition in that case. So that's a very important dimension, Ashok, that you brought. So thank you very much. I'll come back to you for your learning more from you on this. And Toinette, if I can come to you, what has been your maybe opening remarks on personalized learning, and in particular, if you can share your experiences around this, maybe in 2 3 minutes, quickly, if you want to share something.
Thank you. So I definitely agree that it's not an option on the table, it's a must. And the reason for that is today the millennials they have a very certain style they want to do work with, and they're changing the workplace to deliver work in that way. And they're doing the same in the learning. They want bite-sized pieces of work to go through. Their behavior, their style is they want to create something that they can own. So it's very important when we do personalized training that we tap into that we make sure that it resonates with them and that it is relevant. They want something that's relevant to them today. So personal training is all about that. It's individual, about the pace that you learn and your interest and what motivates you. I'm sure everyone will agree that in the traditional training, you would have online training, people get bored with the training carries on, and I continue with my work. But bite-sized, personalized training, it's because it's my interest, I'm engaging more. And an engaged workforce is a motivated workforce, which is more productive. So that was the biggest benefit for us. What we did, we still blended it. So we had personal training journeys. It's important to definitely have the framework, because if you don't have the framework, it's almost like, and we made the mistake, it's almost like grab anything for everybody. So there should be a framework in place still. And then what we did to make sure that we keep them engaged is they will go on their journey of self-learning, and then we would have face-to-face sessions, short 30-minute sessions where they dive. And we did it in 3 different ways. We called it the discovery session, which we would have a coach that's an expert on the topic that they were learning. And the coach would do group coaching with them in a classroom or online. The others was exploration, for all the delegates to come together and say, what did they learn? What did they struggle to apply back at work of the learning that they've got? And they learn from each other. And the other one was just normal, traditional way, just talking about the topic in a learning fashion. So that kept them in line of finishing the course and being ready when the exploration or discovery session happens. So that was, I think, our biggest win with personalized learning, making sure they stay engaged and making sure that they still complete. The other part was evaluating. They like achievement. They achievement driven. So your evaluation should be in the tool immediate, with immediate feedback on how they achieved, because they thrive on that and therefore they want to do the next one.
All right, very interesting. So I think a very interesting perspective that you brought, Antoinette, that it's just not online, because sometimes personalized learning tend to become more of online. You own it and you pick up your course, you do it yourself, self-learning, quite a bit of it. But the way we are wired, that we still like to be in cohorts sometimes with each other. We learn from each other in cohorts. And we would like certain, at least in India in particular, I would say, and it may be true in South Africa as well, the human touch in between at the right time is important so that there is someone available to answer queries, because we still, it depends on the maturity that you are, the learners, the maturity level that you have, that you can do all by yourself or you would need some help on. So thanks. So Meghna, thank you very much for your opening comments, Antoinette. Meghna, coming to you, and especially I'm asking you because I know, your learning and the way IBM Watson revolutionized the way learning is, and I'm sure you would have seen the impact technology brings to make this possible from very close quarters. I'm sure you would have seen that. So can you, and may not be IBM alone, but overall what you see in the industry, very specific 2, 3 key points, how technology is enabling this personalized learning, right? If you could guide us, and then we'll take some questions. We are getting a lot of remarks and questions from team here, from the audience. But role of technology in personalizing learning and engaging the learners, right? How is it doing?
Thank you, Sanjeev. So absolutely, and I'm just sort of giving you not just speaking about our experience at
Yes.
IBM, but what's actually happening in the industry. So usually, firstly, when you speak of technology and you speak of growth, really, right? I mean, you're speaking of growth in terms of skills, and all of this is in correlation to, like Ashok said, for the next opportunity, right? And so you're sort of also correlating it with promotions or your next project or the next IJP or gigs, etc., that you could have available to you. So the platform essentially, which is really a plus from the traditional LMSs we've been using, is really the growth platform now. There are companies that have invested in it, and if they haven't, then there are companies that have connected a seamless ecosystem around it, right?
Mm.
So it's starting from the point of view of what skills does the organization value and hire for. It's connecting with the what are the success metrics of that role. So these are sort of pre-fed into what how data sort of has a role to play in
Mm-hmm.
personalization, and then you sort of build it up with aspirations and desires, right? To be able to say that, hey, this is the level you're performing at. These are the skills which are really critical to you, but then these are the aspirations that you have, right, in your growth journey, and then being able to sort of combine those two elements. The third element that brings in, and this is also to Ashok's point of saying, so what's next? So there is a great sort of value play here, especially with AI around the jobs of the future, the skills of the future. So
Mm-hmm.
there is always that 20% of that cream on the cake, which speaks about here are the skills for the job that you do. This is connected with your growth and aspirations, and here is an element of, say, vision of where spaces will be over the next few years or so. And so you combine all of that and you offer that to an individual in terms of what's possible as a journey for them to take, right? And Sanjeev, in that point, what I want to highlight is that when you bring these three elements together, your role, your
Mm-hmm.
aspirations, and then the vision of where skills play could be in the future, you have to allow for technology that offers you personalization in swim lanes. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
which means that I can't just offer you one course and say, hey, be satisfied with it for the next 6 months, and that's how I'm investing in you. Right. So especially the individual of today and the people that we are seeing, we've done detailed experience mapping on, how people are learning today. And people are like, hey, you know what? This is what I got from the company, but I went on Google, I went on Degree, the external platform, I used Udemy, and I learned something different. So this parallel swim lane idea is what plays a role if you have technology or a platform that can bring it all together. Because then you can't just have one play and say, okay, you're enrolled into one journey and that's what your focus looks like. But the individual then sees that, hey, you know what? This is as robust as it gets. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, if I'm willing to push myself, then this is what I can take. More often than not, we've seen that people are very, very keen on taking what's going to change their future, over the next 1 or 2 years. They're very, especially the learner of today,
Yeah.
right? So they're like, hey, I'm good at what I do right now, but then how do I grow the skills on what's going to happen to me tomorrow? So I guess that is really a role that technology, great platforms, will be able to play. All the more with the advent of AI, what do you do with this information, right? How do you use this once, the person's completed the swim lanes? How do you connect that person to the next opportunity? Again, to Ashok's point, otherwise they're going to leave you, right? So I guess it's just
Mm.
really these bringing these three or four things together, which is easier said than done. Sanjeev, there are very few platforms there which can actually bring all of this
One
together.
related question. So I like
Yes.
what you said. The three things: the combination, the roles, the aspiration of the person, and the future skills. Help create the swim lanes where person can go and then change the lane depending on the the career life cycle or the stage, the learning stage, or the aspiration that person can get into. So that's if I think of it, very complex actually, because very complex. So one question, Meghna, because I think we have audience here from all kind of industries, right? I know in IT service industries, maybe it is easier. Maybe in telecom also, and internet it is relatively easier. What about maybe a manufacturing, a mining industry, right? Do you have some perspective on that? How do they adopt this? Because sometimes when we talk about technology and learning, it is highly focused on IT or services industry, right? But there are manufacturing industries. Just a quick comment from you, because I mean you are a leader. I'm sure you are interacting with the industry all across. Is it much little difficult for other industries compared to maybe IT, retail, or services industries?
Yeah, so Sanjeev, very good point. See, the maturity of the industry in terms of the skills play has a lot to do with how you use all these things, right? So in
Hmm.
technology, it makes a lot of sense. Why? Because these are things which are fast changing, right? Then you're looking at segments like manufacturing and mining, etc., that you spoke about, right? Which are way more traditional. I'm not saying they're not mature. They are more traditional in their setups in
Absolutely.
terms of how fast things change. The only the only connected wire that you'll find across manufacturing, mining, across the board is the use of technology.
Hmm.
Right. So the creation of the new jobs, and there are some great white papers actually available on this. In no matter which industry you fall into, with the advent of technology in these industries, almost every industry is focused on what's going to happen to us with the disruption. There is
Hmm.
absolutely nothing left today where you can say, no, this is not impacted by disruption. Right. The only difference that you will find will be that companies that invest in that, and then there are companies which will slowly sort of climb up the ladder of that maturity in terms of bringing this aspect of all this data together, skills together, etc. But I guess it's just a matter of time, Sanjeev. I mean, come on, chat gpt is on your phone. I have my 12-year-old using that. I mean, do you
Oh,
think
well.
they'll be like, you know no matter where you go, which industry you're a part of,
So
this
good part is
ecosystem
that
will bring us closer.
you're
Sorry,
right. I
go
think
ahead.
the digitalization and digital transformation is impacting almost all the industries today, right? So we
Yes.
can't say that, but I think there are different unique challenges, and because there is no easy solution, right? What has worked, say, in IT or in telecom may not work exactly the same way in, say, in mining, but you have to adopt the basic principles and adopt to your realities and make it work, right? The way it can work. All right. Thank you very much. Very interesting insights, Meghna. Thank you. Ashok, coming to you. How do
Yeah.
we
Before that, I had 2 points to add to what Magna said.
go ahead, please?
The one point which he mentioned about this parallel swim, I really like that word which he used. I think that is really important. You just can't give a prescription to a Gen Z today that you go and learn from this place. This is the learning journey. You learn from point A to point B and you are done. No, that's not going to work. You tell them the outcome you want to achieve, and outcome could be a certification. Tell them that this is the learning journey which I'm giving to you. Just a sample learning journey. This is the outcome. Now you have your choice. You whether you use Chat GPT or you use Gemini or you use Udemy or you want to use whatever. Ultimately, I want a certification. You have to clear the certification. That's all. I think if you give that thing, then you are giving one more element of choice to Gen Z, which they like, which they love rather, I will say. So that's very important. I think that if you use this, this really helps. And to the second point, which you asked on the some of these core industries, today in any core industry there are two things: domain and technology.
Mm,
Domain doesn't change much, whether it's auto, medical, whatever. Domain doesn't change much, and domain knowledge generally people bring from their educational background. Even if there's change, that change can be easily taught as part of your core role-based curriculum within the organization. But technology part pieces of something which is changing extremely fast. Today, any car would have many more microprocessors compared to a computer.
Mm, true.
So the technology angle is changing much more faster. I think that is where the play is. So whether it is a core industry or it is a technology industry, it really doesn't matter. I think technology is playing a role everywhere. Maybe whether it's medical instrument, whether it's automotive, whether it's an aeroplane, what or a ship or whatever you call it. I think the technology component is increasing and domain component is reducing in terms of the complexity.
All right. Thanks
Yeah.
for adding that point. So let me now go to Antoinette. I want to check with you. And you talked about it in your comment when you do discovery and then you do in between group coaching, even in the put people in court, even if they're doing self-learning. But how do we keep, as Meghna was also saying, we are in experience economy. Whatever we do, ultimately we must measure what's the experience people are getting. If you're hiring today, I remember we used to do the candidate experience. If you are a consumer, right, customer's experience, so client experience, so all experience economy. How do we ensure in this personalized learning, we don't compromise on the experience of the learner, right? So how, any guidance from you on that?
So I think the important part there is the pre-assessment. So I think Magna spoke a little bit about the technology and how important it is. But if we're really saying that we personalize the learning experience, we need to understand first and foremost what is it that they're looking for. So what is the training they're looking for and what style of training do they want? That is how you're going to keep them engaged. That is
Okay.
how you're going to do the experience. I mentioned when I opened that the new generation that's coming into the workplace, and they're the bigger population in the workplace, is very achievement driven. So I think technology needs to help us in this to keep that experience. We have to build in gamification into the learning process as well. So the bite size, very important. They want
Okay.
quick in and out. It must be relevant so that they can rationalize around what they're learning. And the evaluation afterwards. So there must be evaluation for them to have that experience. I've done well. I've done good. If not, they can redo it. But they need that constant, you've done well, you achieved. And they are looking for challenges. So the training must be challenging as well. And that might not be fit for everyone. Therefore, the assessment before is very relevant. So in what group and what, can I say, generation group do you build in the challenging gamification, and in what groups do you not build in the challenging thing? And then the rules and goals within the training as well. Today, training should not just be a dump down on them. It should be very interactive. So I learn there's a goal that I need to achieve. There's something that I'm going towards while I'm in the learning. I think that keeps the experience going.
Great. I think what you mentioned is the regular feedback and evaluation, which they would like, is an important aspect sometimes. And the one of the and Meghna, I'm going to come to you for your guidance. One of the disadvantage of maybe a lot of self-learning, online learning is that people do enroll, but the completion rate is very poor, right? Statistically across the globe. So how do we address that? So I think somewhere we have to, keep that human touch and not the monitoring, but the high touch should remain there. A human touch also needs to remain there, right? Now, in terms of, the next question, Meghna, to you is, we keep hearing about, especially online learning, that the adoption rate is poor and completion rate is further very poor, right? I don't know what the number is. I heard some scary number that the completion rate is in single digit, right? Is it still so? Because that's what I read, that online learnings, I mean, the enrollment is huge. It is very easy. Click, you get into the course, but completion rate is very poor and as scary as in single digit. But when we talk about personalized learning, a lot of it is going to be, I mean, you don't have a choice. Use technology, it has to be self-learning, right? Self-enroll or do self-learning. A lot of it is going to be. So what is your caution to us? What's your guidance to us to stay away from this trap of low completion? Because statistically, it may be 1,000 people have logged in, have enrolled, but completion rate, how do we ensure it is sensible?
Great question, Sanjeev. So I would divide it into two parts, right? I would say that
Okay.
one, of course, is in this, there is a huge content dump now, right? Like there is so much content available. We are available, we are on multiple platforms and everyone's sort of trying to really gain that attention, right? And I guess, and I'm not sure what percentage, where did this article sort of pick up the numbers from? But if you go behind it, you'll probably see that that's because you're looking at everything, right? Like just about anything in the world which is out there and then offering content. And so if you really put all of that together, I'm not sure how meaningful that data is. But I feel that in this content, excessive content or content dump or, and all of these sort of this sort of world that exists today, curation and personalization then becomes key. Whenever content is curated to the interest of the individual, right? To the role of the individual, to the growth of the individual, there is often an uptake on it. You look at the high performing, critical courses today that a Udemy, a Degree, a LinkedIn Learning are offering, and anything which is directly linked to especially short-term gains, you will see, a very high percentage completion there. Right. So I guess people are really wanting that, okay, I'm accepting a lot of things, I'm enrolling to a lot of things, but I'm only going to complete what I think is extremely valuable to me. And of course, there is a huge design element, Sanjeev. So that with this excessive content that's available out there, there is also a lot of thoughtless content, to be honest with you, which has not been placed together in the most engaging way. So there are principles and practices in place, and I'm being conscious of the fact that there could be an audience across industries. It's important for us to be able to see that, do we have the right instructional designers putting this content together? Right? Have you thought of engaging the learner in all possible ways? I'm still not convinced that putting someone in a class with a person is going to engage a person more, and that person's going to learn more, right? Than e-learning or a self-paced. I guess it all connects with how do you engage that individual on that topic. And that is a science. It's a science, really. And then there are very few journeys which use that science, and then there are a lot of courses which just sort of share information, and they lose people along the way. I mean, how many people do you put in a class sometimes and everyone's looking at their phones or walking out to take a call, etc. Right? So I guess it
Yeah.
really is important to be able to engage in a meaningful way. The second, of course, is the culture, Sanjeev. And in the context of organizations, and you've seen this as some organizations really invested in learning cultures. And when you invest in that learning culture, which is built around reward, recognition, learning as a mindset, as a value, then there will always be a larger uptake. It's an uphill journey, right? And you can keep
It
going,
is.
falling down on that, right? But I guess it's about what culture do you look at, what culture do you sort of develop and invest in the organization. And to the point of what Antoinette also said, how often are you listening? If there are people not liking a course, or saying something about content out there, how agile are we in being able to adapt and change that, versus say, hey, this has been curated and now just go for this. So I guess those will
What's
be really three
Megha?
key things that
Correct.
drive
Thank you.
success.
I think that gives a very good framework of how do we approach this, right? Let me ask you one pointed question. As a learning head, for a large organization, what's a good number for you would be happy with? Okay, this percentage completion, I'm fine with this. What's the magic number in today's environment with all chaos, all online? Is it? I mean, I'm hearing stories like single digit is the completion rate, but I mean, as an organization, maybe 30, 40%, 50%. If people do, I think right now I'm okay in this transition. I will aspire for more. What's that magic number? Is it easy to
Sanjeev,
answer?
no, it's not easy to generalize. I must say that,
Okay.
prompt engineering, let's look at that last year, right?
Hmm.
When Gen AI came in, Would any
from the
organization accept anything less than a 90-95% completion? No. And none of
okay.
the big organizations accepted it. And you look at it across the industries, and they all had almost 100% completion on that core sort of course, right? It was really about being able to breathe, right? It was oxygen, and everyone took it. Okay, so I
Uh,
guess it really depends on what's
what
the
course,
question
what
out
skill,
there.
what
What skill?
skills,
What?
and
Yeah, exactly. Leadership. I mean, come on. Most invested organizations will say our leadership skills have to be more than 90% completion. Otherwise, what kind of leaders do you have out there? Right. And then of course, it's very difficult to be able to say that, hey, a 30-40 percentage completion was enough. Well, then that means that we aren't putting personalized and curated courses out there. Right.
yeah, yeah.
So I guess that there's no easy answer to that, I
All right.
guess.
Yeah, it's complex, absolutely. And I think it's a transition. I'm sure we'll learn from our experiences, and maybe next couple of years we'll become much more smarter about it, right? In terms of managing this. Ashok, coming to you, you know, the basic premise of personalized learning is that everyone, it's a universe of one. Everyone individually is unique in terms of their current level of knowledge, right? Because we all come from different backgrounds, so our current knowledge could be different. Our speed of learning could be different. The way I want to learn could be very unique, right? Now, as a learning head, as a skills head, you know, you are grooming so many Gen Zs, right? If there's so much of variation, and that to thousands and thousands of people, how do you plan out your, you know, learning in a way, amalgamating? First of all, how do you get this data of your employees, their learning preferences, their current knowledge, their speed of learning, their choices? How do you get this data itself, first of all?
So there are two, as I mentioned initially, there are two type of learning which we focus on. One is
Hmm.
mandatory learning for your current role. There is no choice for anyone. There is a fixed timeline. There's a fixed curriculum. There's a fixed exam. There's a fixed
This
certification
is
which you have to
given.
go through.
You don't have a choice. You have to do.
Yeah, you don't have a choice. You have to do it.
Okay.
You either perform or perish. That is the kind of scenario. Because
You're a
that
hard,
is
you're a hard man.
it's very hard because ultimately business, as I mentioned, runs for profit. It is not a charity. So something which is very basic, you are coming from an engineering institution, you have done 4 years of engineering, we expect some basic things to be there with you. We can
Hmm.
enable you to learn, but ultimately the responsibility lies with you. So
But
that
how do
is
you
that is the
read
first.
this data? Which is fine, which is fine. But how do you read your population? How do you assess how many of them are slow? And today we are talking about neurodiversity, Megdam, I'm sure, and Antoinette, you would know there all kind of variety of people, diversity of thought. People could be neurodiverse, their learning preferences are different. But how do we capture the whole data for you as a skills leader to make sense out of it? That's the question.
So so what we do is there's we do it something called as a pre-assessment. So
Okay.
pre-assessment is like filtering people into various categories. So
Okay.
this free assessment will help me not only decide their learning journey, it will also help me decide their role. Okay. So depending on what is the person's capability, what is his learning speed, what is his learning attitude,
Preferences.
his aptitude, I'll give him the role matching to his profile. If I don't put him into the right profile, then I candidate will fail, organization will fail, both of us will fail. So we
Hmm.
have to give him the role which is as per his profile. His or her profile rather. And whether it's neurodiversity or gender diversity, we have to be neutral to that and put them through the same assessment. And if, depending on how they perform, we'll have to give the role to them. That
Hmm.
is the first thing. Once you give them the right role, I think majority of the people will be on a same pedestal before when they start. So you can be reasonably sure that their learning speed will be at par. It may not be exactly at par, maybe it is in a similar range. And accordingly, you define curriculums for them. I think that is the first thing you need to do. And
Hmm.
once you put them into the role, let them perform for some time. And there are possibilities that you might have done some miscalculation because it may that day may not be that person's day, and he or she may not have performed on that day. Give them some chance, give them some time, and after some time, keep assessing them and provide them mentorship. I think that is the extremely important part. As a senior leader, it is important for the
Mentorship
organization to
is,
provide mentorship to each and every individual. Do a hand holding. There are
and I would
possibilities that
highlight. I would highlight that, Ashok, for all of us, I think we all mostly are business leaders or HR leaders. We should not make a mistake of just creating a very fancy system and leaving people off their own. I think that
Absolutely
doesn't
not.
work,
Yeah.
especially in our kind of economy where people are wired like this. There's some hand holding would be required, some mentoring, some human touch, like Antoinette was saying, that there'll be cohort and there'll be some group coaching, some kind of interaction, validation, checkpoint. There should be someone to go to in case you are lost, because we are all not mature to do self learning. We are still would need a lot of hand holding. So that's a caution I want to very loudly call out, that we should not think that setting up a good system alone will be enough. No, that alone is
And
not enough.
also, people come from various culturally diverse, no, backgrounds. People coming from North India versus South India, from East India versus West India. They will have a different kind of no diversity. So you have to make sure that you have to solve that. And when you are putting a mentorship framework into place, there are two ways we are doing it. One is there's a list of mentors available to each individual with the
Mhm.
expertise area. No, individual has a choice to pick up that any mentor who has expertise area in his area
In
of
that
choice, and
particular.
they can connect. There's an online platform we have designed for that. They can choose it. But some cases, the people don't want to choose that, so we also assign from our side depending on what is required. Because some people are shy, some people are good communicators, and we are not that great communicators. That's fine. Every role doesn't need you to be an excellent communicator. Some roles are back-end roles also. So they can, if they are technically good, they can perform in that role as well. So I think it's very important to assign the person to the right role. If you do that, then I think this problem dies down to a large extent.
All right. I think that's a very interesting point you made, and especially I really liked the human touch, because I think we should never lose sight of that, right? Because that's a danger that, okay, put a system, let people do their
All
own
of
work.
us started as freshers, and we have gone through that journey. We have seen
Yes,
how we were handled. We should not forget that. Ultimately, our sons and daughters are going to go through that journey now. And if they don't get that kind of handholding in their organization, we'll feel bad about it. So I think we have to play that father
absolutely.
figure role and do that.
Wow, that's a great point. So, Antoinette, coming to you, uh, we today talk about, I think somewhere, I think Meghna and Ashok were mentioning, it's not only what you want to learn, the new generation, but when they want to learn, right? So as we say, there's a term called in the flow of work, right? You learn in the flow of work just when you need, right? And I think technology is enabling to some extent, but could you throw some light on in this you know want of doing this personalization of learning and learner engagement? How can we bring this element of learning in the flow of work, right? As a business, how do we ensure that they learned just when they need it? Because sometimes we hear horror stories that, oh, I learned something maybe 2 years back, and as Ashok was saying, managers did not allow him or her to go out of the current role, and that learning got wasted, and it leads to frustration. So how do we ensure learning in the flow of work when we are trying to personalize learning for the new learners in the workplace? Little complex, but if you can make it easy for us, that'll be great.
Okay, I'm going to try and make it easy, but I think Meghna also mentioned it. It's a learning culture. So it starts with the leadership and the executives. They need to embrace this learning culture. And managers don't always like to take one of the individuals and put them into a project where they lose all their focus in their current role. But
Mm.
flow of work is exactly that. We're allowing people to go spread their wings. And it starts with management. So it's really the journey with the managers to have this learning culture. In experience that I will share, we did something that we called a growth mindset. And we said we're very
Growth.
honest. Us as an organization, we want to grow the business. So we're not going to lie about it. Our first focus is growing the business. But we're also very connected to each and every employee, and we also want them to grow. So we really push the individual to own their own growth journey. So their own growth, their development journey. And we almost say to them, if your manager is not having these career discussions with you or having these discussions of how you learn in the flow of work, knock on their door. You own it, go knock on their door. But it really starts with management. So management needs to buy into this and then allow the individuals to have that time. The first thing is your business objectives must align to your learning objectives. So it's important that you have goals throughout the business that also talks about learning. In Blue Label, when I was there, we had a objective in everyone's performance reviews called self-development.
Okay.
So you look after your development, and then for every single manager, we had a objective to say developing others. So they commit in the beginning of a financial year how they're going to help the individual to learn, and that's the flow of learning. And again, I'm pushing on it, but I said it before as well. The assessments, pre-assessments are very important because it's also not necessary to learn in the flow of work if that's not what my interest is and I don't want to do it. Because you might put me into a place where I learn in the flow of work, but that's not the skill set that I want at the moment. There's something else that I want. So it's important that manager and employee are aligned with a journey of development. Where do I want to go? What is that future vision of mine? And making sure that flow of work, I get to learn those skills. Therefore, I'll be invested and I'll make an impact. I hope that was simple.
It was at least, no, and let me admit it's complex. It's complex, but I think you made it very simple for us. So thank you very much for doing that. So very last question, Meghna, to you, and very quick answer. One of the toughest thing for learning professionals has been and will continue to be ROI of learning, right? And so it is easy to ask, show me the ROI of the learning. And I remember very interesting, maybe a joke or some, which we hear, that there was a CFO and he told the CEO that, hey, you're investing a lot in learning. What if these people leave? And the CEO's answer was, what if we don't train them and they stay with us, right? What will we do with that, right? That was the right answer. So it is difficult, but any quick comment from you on how do we in this personalized learning, because it is very scattered, there's people doing multiple things. How do we assess the effectiveness and the ROI, if we call it? A CEO may ask this, CFO still would ask this question, right? How do we assess that?
Yeah.
Is it possible, first of all?
So Sanjeev, there is no, unless you're, sort of training for saying, I'm going to train in this skill set and, see how I could staff you really quickly. I mean, unless you were able to sort of draw some sort of correlation there. In most learning, there are some impact studies that some people have been able to do very successfully. So we've seen in sales and in certain other areas where the impact studies were great, right? In terms of saying that, okay, how do you correlate the impact of a certain program, and then how is it that that person was able to sell better or be a better consultant, and so on and so forth. So there are these impact studies that a lot of companies invest in. The second, of course, is your ability to be able to say that what sort of just a lot of companies are listening in on the engagement surveys on this one. Right. Okay. So it's really the balance of the two ends of the spectrum. One is our business impact directly. And the second is, did that individual feel that they had enough opportunities in the company to grow?
To
right.
develop.
And would they be good promoters of that? Would they be good advocates of that? So the whole concept of advocacy then comes into play, that, are you building great advocates with the learning that you could be imparting? So I guess it's two ends of the spectrum, but it is something that companies continue to invest in. And I think it's a critical one, which we need to consider. No easy answer there.
No easy answer. So Prerna, if you could just display the screen, there's a couple of announcements for a minute I need to make.
Sanjeev, just one quick point on this ROI part. One of our veteran leader once told me, in fact, since then I have never got my budget disapproved for learning. He says, whenever you're going for a budget approval for L&D, don't put the ROI or the cost of not doing it. Just put the cost of not doing it, and they will definitely approve it immediately.
You're echoing what I said, right? The story that I said, the CEO and the CFO, the effect of not doing it. Sometimes that's a better way of putting.
Exactly.
So I mean, just I know we are conscious of time. We are close to the time. If you have hard stop at 5, So formally we'll close this session in just a 2 minutes time. And thank you all the expert for great insights and audience for very engaging audience. A lot of comments parallelly were going on, but just a couple of announcements I want to make. One, we as enabling world, we have, you can download the employee wellbeing calendar. That being one of the area that we work on. If you go next, you could download from the link that is being shared on the chat. And Prerna, if you could go to the next page, just to give an example that, each month we have a lot of different events on well-being, right? Depending on World Autism Day, like in April. So we do very specific programs on well-being, on neurodiverse people, on World Health Day, Liver Day. So I think there are a lot of programs we offer. The time is short. Take a screenshot or scan and download these brochure, and you can reach out to us in case you need any help on. So we would encourage you. And next, if you go, we have a YouTube channel where, World Health Day is coming up on 7th April. So in case any organization is interested in well curated program around health, employees health, please reach out to us. And because employees well-being is becoming another important element in CHRO or business leaders agenda, right? So we can help you with that if you want. And this link is there. You can download the brochure or reach out to us. You can scan. If we go next, then we have a YouTube channel where we have maybe 25 such sessions, right? Where we pick up very interesting topic and we bring experts and we share knowledge, we build knowledge. Maybe few people could join, some people cannot join. So I would request if you can scan, and there's a link in the chat as well, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You will always get alerts whenever we are adding some new knowledge piece, knowledge bite into our YouTube channel. And we do very selective piece. We bring best of the experts like today we have, and we learned so much through this. So if you want to learn, this is free of cost. So you can just go to our YouTube channel and subscribe, and then leave your comments, remarks if you want. And then there'll be a very quick poll of how the session was today. And my team will flash it on your screen. It'll take 30 seconds for you to rate how you like the session, because that will encourage us to do more and more such sessions and bring knowledge to you, right? So with that, let me thank Ashok, Antoinette, you and Meghna for such wonderful insights. I wish we had more time, but for people who can stay on, Meghna is a hard stop. I know Meghna would let you go, will not hold you beyond this. But thank you so much for joining and sharing some very precise insights on how do we do, what are the precautions, and how can we make it happen, and not compromising on employee experience. So thank you very much for being there. And Antoinette, thanks for joining, and we welcome you to India whenever you can. You have some great rich experience and insights that you shared, especially the human touch that we can keep while doing the whole journey of the personalized learning. And Ashok, your practical experience of managing the Gen Zs, how do we assessment and how do we manage the managers who can become a block in the whole journey, right? That's very important. So you're bringing those insights. So thank you very much. And thank you, audience, for bringing a lot of remarks. You were in parallel, the session was running. So thank you very much for that. So Ashok and Antoinette will be there for 10 minutes more we'll stop the recording now. And we thank you, everyone. Formally, we'll close the session, but we'll stay for 10 minutes in case anyone has a comment, you want to unmute yourself